back, folks. So we're going to get this bumper cover cleaned up here. I've got it wired up to my shop lights on the wall, and it's wired to a body panel stand, and I'm going to give that a try. I've never done it that way before. I usually paint them oriented the wrong way, but I'm going to give it a shot this way and see if they come out any better. Probably a little less dirt, I would imagine. But in the previous video, you saw how we take the trisodium phosphate and the gray Scotch pad and give it a good scuffy job here. You don't want any shiny spots, so I'm just going to take some of my waterborne degreaser here, which is basically, if you want to make your own, it's alcohol and water, but this is not really that expensive. I don't know what the percentage of alcohol versus water is in the actual cleaner, but it's that kind right there. This one happens to be the beer. And I do the 2-cloth method, one wet, one dry. I rinsed this thing really, really well when I scrubbed it down with trisodium phosphate and the gray Scotch Brite. But we're going to go ahead and clean it again. I don't want any residue on it. And I prep this like I would prep a raw plastic bumper because it is a factory bumper. Now, I did take a piece of 800 grit to it in a couple of spots just to check, and it acts like it might be a primed bumper, but I'm going to treat it like raw plastic because I don't know. It's just too smooth to be a primed bumper. Usually there's a teeny bit of texture on them from them putting the plastic primer on, waterborne plastic primer, and I don't know. It didn't act like it was primed from the way it looked. So we're going to treat it this way. It probably does have some sort of primer on it, but I'll tell you, I can't tell. So I'm going to err on the side of caution. It is still fairly dirty, so I'll probably have to wipe this thing a couple of times. Check that out. That was with the wet towel and the dry towel afterwards. Look how nasty that is. I mean, that's dirty. Dirty, dirty. She's a dirty one. Now, with this particular cover, and as for a lot of other covers, I think you guys can see it without me zooming in real crazy for you, but this area right here is where the grill goes in, and then there's a lower grill that goes in this opening. So you need to get paint over those edges, and if you don't know how far, look at your old unit and make sure that you get the paint in far enough and get it scuffed good, because you don't want any problems. These things can be a bitch to put together sometimes. You got to be careful not to scuff the paint along the edges, and if it's not adhered well, then it'll come off. Same thing with these areas. There's a fog lamp and a fog lamp grill that goes in here, and this doesn't need paint on it per se. If you get paint on it, that's okay. I sort of scuffed around it, but it's kind of a fiddly area. You just need paint over this edge, and this area right here, I believe, is not covered, so that definitely needs shiny paint on it. And then there's actually a lower, I'll call it a lower spoiler. It goes on this, it clips onto the bottom, and for whatever reason, I forgot to order it, so it's a non-painted item. It's actually like a black plastic, textured type deal. Just got the heat on in the shop here. I built a fire in the wood stove outside. We're up to about 65. I'd like to see about 75 before I paint here, so we'll give it a while, but I figured I'd at least get this thing wiped off. Try and get some of the residue off of it. I mean, it's just really gosh, it's dirtier than I thought it would be for scrubbing it a couple of times with trisodium phosphate. The other thing you can do with these bumper covers when they're raw plastic, it's called tempering. I would either leave it out in the sun for several hours, the hot sun, or obviously if you got a paint booth, you can run the paint booth for 15 or 20 minutes if you got a bunch of plastic parts together that need painted. And that'll bring all the mold release and the residues up to the surface so that when you clean it, you actually get them out. I mean, obviously, I don't have any way to bake this other than an infrared light after it's painted. And that can cause problems because the heat releases those agents out of the plastic, and you don't want to get them too hot because it'll push the paint off of them. Ask me how I know. It's been a while, but I did a bumper cover that was a new bumper cover, not a spot repair type deal. So it was all raw plastic, and yeah, it didn't work out so good. I ended up having to strip it. It probably would have been cheaper to buy another cover. It was a real headache. Get in these areas the best I can. I've got this thing, I used some 035 MIG wire out of my welder. That works real good for hanging parts if they're not real heavy, especially something like this. I don't have any wooden sawhorses, or I might have tried Tom's Wonderful World way of doing this. I don't know if I'll ever own a set of wooden sawhorses. I have plastic ones. And I don't have two covers to paint simultaneously, so there's really no way to counterweight it without hanging a brick or something on the other side. I already have enough trash in the shop without adding to it, so yeah. I'll probably have to wipe this thing a couple times, so you get the gist of it. One to wipe off, one to clean with, and I'll probably do it twice. So I'll bring you back when it's time to throw some adhesion promoter on this guy. All right, let's throw some adhesion promoter on this. This is going to be the first job where I actually show me using the TechnoPro light. This thing's got a 1/4 tip in it, and we're going to try spraying about 18-19 pounds for this adhesion promoter, which may be way too high for that tip size, but I did a couple spray outs. I don't want to really blow a bunch of air over this bumper cover before I put adhesion promoter on it, because that thing will draw a lot of static. Sometimes I'll ground these, but I'm not going to ground this one today. We're going to see how it turns out. pounds. Sprays this sealer pretty nice. It didn't spray the Valspar DTM converted to a sealer very nice. Alright, there you go, one coat of sealer. Next shot base coat.